So, conservative talk show host Michael Knowles reacts to his video, you know, reacting to the Snowflakes music video. He calls it a backlash, how he basically reacted to that video. But I don't think it's backlash. I think it's just people disagreeing with him, and that's okay. So I'm basically creating this video because I disagree with Michael Knowles and what he says in this video and the previous one. And I disagree with it because, again, he goes on. Well, you should watch the video. Basically, in this video, in the reaction to his previous video about the Snowflakes music video, he says that Blaire White is basically a guy and basically goes on a tirade against about that issue, and how if you're not really conservative or Republican or whatever, if you actually think that Blaire White is a she, or call Blaire White a she, and that sort of thing. But the thing is, and why I disagree with Michael Knowles, is because, again, there are people, right? There are females who are born, small percentage of it, but there's females who are born with the opposite, organ, the opposite sex organ. Females who are born with penises, and vice versa. There's males, again, very small number, very small percent, but there just is males who are born with the opposite sex organ, right? With the opposite sex organ. So that's not nothing new. That's not new. We know that happens. We know, occasionally that happens. So the thing is, can it be true that a biological male or female, right, born male or female, right, but has traits? Let's say they're born biological male, but they have more traits that are female, right? Biological male, born male, male body, but they have traits. They have more traits that are female as opposed to being, you know, to having male traits. And because of all those female traits, they might not feel at home in their own body, right? So I think it's feasible to assume that there's a very small number of people, very small percentage of people who are born in a certain biological sex, right? They're born female or male, but have the opposite traits, have more traits of the opposite sex rather than what their own biological body is. And again, that is not to say that we should be accepting and encouraging, even, like, I don't know, 6-year-olds or 8-year-olds, 10-year-olds, little children, to basically change their sex, or accepting parents who their kids dresses their male kid dresses as a girl one time, and all of a sudden, hey, our boy is a girl now because he dressed in a girl dress once or twice, right? Or the vice versa, a girl dresses up as tomboy, and all of a sudden, hey, our 10-year-old girl dresses up as a tomboy, so she's a boy now, right? And we go to brainwash her even before puberty, and confuse her, or confuse him about what sex they are. So no, we should not accept that, and we should not accept, parents brainwashing their children into thinking they're the opposite sex, especially when they're very young, like 8-year-old or 9-year-old, or I don't know, any age that's below 16. You're just going to be confusing the kid about their sex, about their biology, about everything. They don't know. 10-year-old doesn't know about sex, doesn't know about biology, doesn't know about gender. So if you tell them they're opposite sex, you're just going to confuse them. So again, that doesn't mean we accept, hey, 8-year-old dresses up as a girl, he must be a girl. No, or parents brainwashing the children to think they're the opposite sex. But again, to pretend that there's not a tiny population of people who have more traits of the opposite biological sex and not feel home in their bodies is just, I don't know. I think it's ignorant and goes against the facts. Goes against the facts. Goes against you know what we know happens, right? And it happens, right? Females are born with penises, males are born with vaginas, very, very, very small number of people. So now this brings us to the video and you know to Blaire White. Does it mean that Blaire White is a woman? Full stop. No, she's not a full woman. You know, full stop. Right? She's not a woman. Full stop. But she's not a guy either. She's not a dude. She's not a male. Right? She is a trans woman. Trans woman. Not woman. Full stop. Not a biological woman. Not She is a trans woman. Transitioned woman. And again, this is different from someone deciding all of a sudden, right? Hey, from today on, I'm 40 years old, and from today on, from this moment on, I'm a female, just like that. And you should call me a female. You should call me she. You should call me. I don't think that's no one should just accept that. But I think if it makes sense, right? If it makes sense, if it's logical, if it's reasonable, right? If it looks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, if it walks like a duck, it's a duck, right? It must be a duck. So again, if someone's transitioned fully, like Blaire White has, right? They've transitioned fully. They've gone through several years of hormones and therapy and operations and all of that stuff. And on top of that, not only they have transitioned, but they look like a female, they sound like a female, they talk like a female, they act like a female. I think you know it would be weird and wrong to call them a he, right? It would be weird to call Blaire White a he, to call Blaire White a guy. Yeah, that doesn't mean she's biological woman now. That doesn't mean she's a full-on woman now. But she is a trans woman, and I think it makes more sense to call Blaire White a she, right? If you were to go outside and you were to see Blaire White for the first time, right? You don't know who she is. You don't know. Look, you're not going to see her and assume she's a male, right? You're going to see her and assume she's a female. And if you were to talk to her, again, she sounds like a female. She talks like a female. She acts like a female. There's, you're not going to assume in any possible way that she's a male. Again, when we are talking about science and we're debating, you know, it's okay to acknowledge the fact that she was born a biological male, that she was a male basically until her I think she transitioned, I don't know, 18 or 19 or something like that. Not even really early, but she used to be a biological male. But again, it doesn't make sense right now when she's fully transitioned, and not only that, but sounds, talks, acts, looks like a female. I don't think it makes sense to call Blaire White a he. It just doesn't make sense, right? And I think we should go by what makes sense, by what's logical, right? Again, doesn't mean you accept anything. Doesn't mean you say Blaire White is a woman, full stop. But I think it's fair to say that Blaire White is a trans woman, fully transitioned, looks, acts, etc. And again, I think, for example, he talks about Caitlyn Jenner as well. I think with Caitlyn Jenner, and see, I'm calling Caitlyn Jenner Caitlyn, right? I'm not calling. Caitlyn Jenner, Bruce Jenner. And again, if anyone changes their name, I'll call them whatever their name is. To me, that you know that's that makes perfect sense, right? If someone wants to to call themselves, I don't know, Caitlyn or Kate or Jenny or this or that, like they change their name. That's perfectly fine to me. I will call them by their name. But I think, for example, with Caitlyn Jenner, it's a little bit of a different story because you know while she's transitioned, I feel like if someone were to call Caitlyn Jenner Bruce Jenner, or instead of calling her, calling him, I don't think that's evil. I don't think that's bad. I don't think that's that's I don't know transphobic or sexist or any of those things. I just think if someone looks at Caitlyn Jenner and they see a man, they should be able to call Caitlyn Jenner Bruce Jenner or call her a he. It just it should be their individual choice what to call that person. And again, if someone, let's take this as an example. Say a 60-year-old man, right? 60-year-old man, and not just a man, macho type man, into sports, into tough fighting sports, you know, having had I don't know 4 different wives, been with a lot of women, never showed even an ounce, right? Never shown even an ounce of femininity, right? And all of a sudden, at 60 years old, he decides as a joke, right, to say that all of a sudden he is now female. But right, no one knows that, right? He decides to just you know, make a joke about it, right? And if you were to say, no, I'm sorry, but you're not a female. I mean, you're a male for 60 years. You've been a male. You've done all of this, you know, male activities, and you've 4 wives. I don't know. You've been with numerous women, and again, you've been a macho man your whole life, and all of a sudden, right at 60 years old, you're saying you're a female now. No, I'm sorry, you're not a female, and that's perfectly okay. I don't think anyone should be canceled for that. I don't think anyone should be, I don't know, have his life ruined for that, and vice versa. If you were right to say, hey, welcome. If you're a female, I say, hey, welcome, you know, welcome to femaleness. Well, welcome to womanhood. Woman power, girl power. Woohoo, right? And if you're to start calling, let's say the guy name is John, right? And you start calling John Jaina or whatever, she, her, whatever. That's also fine. I don't think you should be canceled for that. I don't think you should have your life ruined for that. I think people should look at certain people, right, and decide for themselves what makes sense for them, right? Of course, you should also, like, you know, basically calculate, about being nice and being, stuff like that. Just being courteous, right? Not being, a jackass. But again, if you see Caitlyn Jenner and you see a man, right, it's perfectly okay to say Caitlyn Jenner is a man. Caitlyn Jenner is a he, right? To call Caitlyn Jenner a he. I think that's perfectly fine. And again, if you see Caitlyn Jenner and you see a woman, it's also fine. Again, to say she's a woman, to call her Caitlyn, to whatever. I just don't think people should be canceled for having difference of opinion. I don't think people should be canceled for having difference of opinion, but you should also accept criticism. You should also accept debate. You should also accept that there's going to be people who disagree with you, and that doesn't make those people evil. That doesn't make those people bad. It just means that they have a difference of opinion, and it's okay to debate if Caitlyn Jenner is And I don't think again I like. Do I think Caitlyn Jenner is a female? Is a woman? No. Again, do I think she's a trans woman? I mean, not really, because again, Caitlyn Jenner
shut off.
is a different thing. Caitlyn Jenner transitioned at 60 something years old, right? And I don't even know if she's quote fully transitioned, right? I don't even know if that's the case. And again, Caitlyn Jenner, basically, he, she, whatever you wanna call Caitlyn, used to be a macho man type of male, right? Into sports, into track, into running, into been with three different wives. So it's hard when someone transitions at 60 something years old and says all of a sudden, hey, I'm a female, and not even an ounce of femininity before. I think that's a tougher sell. And again, if you look at Caitlyn Jenner now, does she look like a female? No, no, she looks like a. I mean, I'm sorry, but she does look like a man. Again, if she did look like a female, and she sounded like a woman, talked like a woman, everything else, and fully transitioned, right? And it made sense. I looked at Caitlyn Jenner, and within a millisecond, my brain is like, that's a female, right? I think, I would call Caitlyn Jenner a female. You know, she, in my mind, she would be a trans woman, but if I don't, then I don't. And I think people who don't see Caitlyn Jenner as a female, that's perfectly fine as well. But to me, people should go, but by what makes sense, right? By what makes sense. And if you see Blaire White, and I think if you had, I don't know, if you polled 1 million people, like, and basically tasked them to assign sex to people, and people saw, right, who didn't know Blaire White, they would, probably 99% would assign female to Blaire White, right? Everyone who looks at her would not assume that she used to be a male. She was born a male, right? And I think that's the important thing. Like, I don't think, again, she's not a woman. She is a trans woman. I think that's important to to distinguish. And again, this doesn't mean that someone decides that's all of a sudden, not transitioning, not not nothing, just all of a sudden, here I'm a woman, right? Like, there was this guy. I mean, it's a viral YouTube video, right? There's this guy who goes, he wears short shorts and a pink shirt, right? But again, he looks like a man. If you were to show this guy, if you were to show a picture or video, or if people saw, let's say 7 billion people, every single person on planet Earth saw this guy in person, there's not one person in the entire planet who would say that's a female, right? Everyone, 7 billion people, would identify him as a man. Again, just because he wears a pink shirt doesn't make him a girl, doesn't make him woman, doesn't make him female. And again, the guy who was in the store, right, sees a guy, he was buying something. He's like, "Thank you for your, I don't know, for your patronage, sir." And the guy goes, insane. The guy goes ballistic. He's like, I'm not a guy. I'm not a sir. I'm a woman. I'm tired of people misgendering me. But I mean, again, the guy looks like a guy. Looks like a guy. Sounds like a guy. Talks like a guy. Acts like a guy. You know, you, how can you be, a woman? How can you be female? And he's not even transitioned. He's not, it's one thing if you fully transition, and again, plus you look, you sound, you act like feminine. Again, this guy did not act feminine. Just because you have, you wear pink shirts and short dress and short shorts as a guy, that doesn't make you a female. And so I think it's important to distinguish. Just because you say you're a guy, you're not transitioning, and again, you don't look at like a female, you don't sound like a female. I mean, I'm sorry, but you have to accept the fact that people, are just not going to. to see you as a woman, especially when you're male. You're born a male. You're biological man. You're 30, 40 years old, right? Looking like a man, sounding like a man, acting like a man, not doing anything to transition. So yeah, I think you know people should not confuse basically accepting everyone who says they're the opposite sex as hey, they said they're the opposite sex, and we have to accept it with basically doing what makes sense, doing what feels logical, right? And I think it makes sense, it's logical for a fully transitioned Blaire White who looks, sounds, talks, and acts like a female to be called a she or her or. And again, that still doesn't mean she's a you know that doesn't mean she's now a woman. That means she's a trans woman. So yeah, that's it. I think Michael knows. And again, it's good to disagree. It's good to disagree. I don't think Michael Knowles should be cancelled. I don't think anyone who thinks opposite of him should be cancelled either. That's the most important thing here. Canceling people and ruining their lives, and I don't know, calling for boycotts and calling them evil because they have a difference of opinion. That's perfectly fine. And we should debate this stuff, and we should criticism is also okay. Debating, criticism, free speech, that's okay. People should be able to disagree with each other about any sort of issue. But yeah, I do think that being trans doesn't sort of refrain you from being a conservative or republican or anything else. I think you know it's up to individuals to judge for themselves how that doesn't mean everyone has to accept everyone, and that doesn't mean that there doesn't need to be debates and people interacting and critiquing each other and their opinions and their ideas. But yeah, I think in this case it just makes sense. It just makes sense that Blaire White is a she, and you cannot say that Blair White is still now a guy. So yeah, that's it for today. See you guys next time.